Hello and welcome back to the Squash Bagel. Just two announcements that I need to make. One, I still do intend on doing the interview with John Sharp, aka the string doctor. He just so happens to be quite busy at the moment with the PSA starting. He's been making obviously a lot of customizations and doing a lot of stringing for some of the pros. So he's just been really busy and unable to, offer the time up to have the conversation around strings. But as soon as the gap opens up, he will get back to me and we'll have that conversation. Announcement number two, the delivery of the Technifibers Slash to South Africa has been delayed. Still not sure when they are arriving. They should arrive this week, but it seems like there's a delay. There's not been any feedback, unfortunately. So as soon as that does land up in SA and I do get my hands on the Technifiber Slash, I will still do the review. But that should not take away the excitement that I do have, which is to present to you and review the Karakal Raw Pro 2.0. I think in the previous review that I have done last year around the 5 or 6 rackets that I tried in 2022, I was very excited to say that if I could get my hands on the Karakal Raw Pro 2.0, I'd be very happy to do so, and I would be very happy to do a review, and I've finally been able to get my hands on it. In fact, the first time I actually saw it in person was in July in Pretoria at Squasheteers headquarters, which is Harlequin's squash club in Pretoria. But unfortunately that week when they did arrive, I was playing a tournament. It wasn't the right moment to dedicate my time as well as my resources and faculties towards thinking about a new racket or trying to adapt to a new racket in the week of competition, especially since I had been playing with the Airshaft NS for the last 2 months before that. At that time, I had seen it in person. Obviously, it had wraps around the grip, but I was actually able to see it and hold it in my hands, but I was not actually able to play with it. Obviously, a few months later, I just so happened to bump into someone that did have the racket, and they allowed me to get my hands on it and actually review. But if you are looking for the Karakal Raw Pro 2.0 in South Africa, head over to squasheteers.co.za. That's where I saw it for the first time. I think that is one of the only places I've seen it advertised, and if it's not on the website, you can always send them an email and find out when it is that they will be in stock again. Just to give a bit of structure about what's upcoming in this review, we're going to talk about some of the specifications, the pros of the racket, the cons of the racket, as well as who I think this racket may be for, or who may be more prone to use this type of racket. So without further ado, let's go. Number one, specifications. So specifications, I'm sure many of you will know that this is a 120 gram frame weight. It comes in at about 151 grams all in, so that it does include obviously the strings as well as the grip, 151 grams overall, which is noticeably very light, about 5 grams lighter than your Technifiber Airshaft or more of your traditional Carboflex, which come in at 125 grams. So it actually does hold true to the tolerances, I guess. It's definitely quite light in hand. That's one thing I did notice as soon as I picked it up. It's obviously a teardrop shape coming with a 14 by 18 stringing pattern, but something that's not so noticeable is the fact that it comes with a 480 square centimeter head size, which is about 20 square centimeters smaller than your traditional Carboflexes. So the Carboflexes come in about 500 square centimeters. That's normally going to be your majority of the teardrops, except for the Dunlops. I think the Revelations and the Evolutions come in at about 490 square centimeters. So the Alify Rag, the Victor Qua racket, comes in about 490 square centimeters. Some of the hybrid rackets that they do have also come in at 490 square centimeters. So this one is slightly smaller. 10 square centimeters is not very noticeable. And the part that surprised me the most is that when I compared it to my Carboflex Heritage, you could not actually really noticeably see the difference between the two rackets, and that's what I'm about to show you now. So in terms of head size, and I think that's maybe where the 20 square centimeters comes in, I do know that the beam is obviously a lot thinner on the Karakal. Probably you are shaving off a few square centimeters, obviously, in terms of it is an area, so you are shaving off a few square centimeters with that, but it is a noticeably thinner beam than your traditional Carboflexes, or at least the old Carboflexes itself. It's very noticeable against obviously some of your thicker frame rackets, so your heads which are not the slim body variants, but I'll put this sort of in the slim body category because it has a very narrow beam, which obviously contributes to the lightweight attribute that you get with this racket. So if you start quoting the specs and you think about the fact that it's 120 grams, the fact that it has a smaller head size, you start to sort of drift towards the Nick Matthew Dunlop Evolution 120. And I would definitely put this up there in terms of feel through the air as well as striking the ball. I did feel that the rackets really are quite similar. Maybe with the Dunlop you have a little bit more of a solid feel because it's not such a thin beam. But apart from that, swinging it through the air, when you strike the ball, the way the ball plays, or the way the ball, I guess, feels off the racket itself, they are quite similar. So I think someone who either cannot find a Evolution 120 or has played with Evolution 120 and wants to try something new, you might feel at home with one of these. I know in South Africa they do not bring the Evolution 120 in anymore, which I don't know what the reason is. I think if you are looking for one of those and you did enjoy the Evolution 120, I think this will probably be a racket that you would enjoy, although I will speak to who would enjoy this racket a bit later. It comes with an eco-friendly cover, which is something that's quite unique, I guess, compared to some other manufacturers. You know, the fact that you can fold it and actually put your racket inside there, so it's called an eco bag, which is recyclable, and it comes strung with the Hot Zone 120, so it's a 1.2 millimeter string, quite a reasonably priced string compared to some other ones as well, and I have got no complaints regarding the string at the moment. I was actually quite impressed with how the racket played. I'm not too sure what tension it comes strung in. Obviously that will be factory tension. I could only estimate around 27-28 pounds. With respect to weight distribution, I feel that it is quite evenly balanced. So I've been using the Airshaft NS for the last 3 to 5 months, and that is quite noticeably head heavy, with obviously if you look at the distribution of grams in the head as well as in the handle. Whereas, as I said, with the narrower handle in the Airshaft NS, while still maintaining the same attributes as the normal Airshaft, and the fact that it still has to come in 125 grams, they shifted obviously a lot more weight towards the head, which makes it obviously a lot more head heavy, whereas this one is well distributed. It's quite evenly distributed. I would say very close to 50-50 if I'm not mistaken, but I haven't been able to measure that on my scales. The highlight feature of the racket, as well as Karakal's top-end rackets, is what they call next-gen fiber. So basically, next-gen fiber claims to restore the racket back to the shape of origin, or the original shape just before you struck the ball, faster than normal. And you definitely feel that there's a response that you get as soon as you strike the ball, which is quite nice. It's quite refreshing. You get constant feedback if you've struck the ball quite well, and you get constant feedback and some sort of vibration, or not, I don't want to call it vibration. There's a unique response, very similar to what you get with the Dunlop. There's a unique response. In fact, I might almost feel that it's slightly better than a Dunlop, but that will be my personal preference in terms of the feel that you get back out of it. But that is going to be something that you do get from a racket with a smaller head size. You should be obviously rewarded, and you should know when you hit the sweet spot compared to larger frames where they are a little bit more forgiving because they've got a larger head size. With regards to the pros, as I said, with the next gen fiber, there's quite a remarkable feeling when you actually strike the ball. It's very hard to explain, and I know obviously the reason some people do like the Technifibers is because of that solid feel that you get, crunch on the ball. Almost like, I wouldn't want to call it a blunt instrument, but you can sort of strike the ball without worrying. Whereas the Raw Pro has, I don't know what you want to say. The feedback is just, I would say, remarkable. It's something that I enjoy. I've also been a bit finicky about that with regards to the strings that I choose as well. The fact that I'm getting feedback. So hopefully it is, as I said, it comes with the string. So hopefully it's a feature of the string, because I do think at the price point that the strings come at, it's something that I would love to use, especially the fact that these two pair quite well. But you get a good feedback, and I think that's also got to do with the fact that it's got a smaller head size of 480 square centimeters. It seems to be more towards the control side of things. The fact that it weighs only 120 grams in terms of frame weight means that it's very maneuverable, and it might take slight adjustment if you come from a heavier racket, but once you do get the timing of the ball down, I do feel that you will enjoy the reward that you actually get from hitting the ball well with this racket. So one of the biggest things that I found that I enjoyed about the racket is the accuracy. So I found that I really struck the ball well, and when I did strike the ball well, I was actually rewarded, and I really hit my targets quite well. I am going to leave a couple of clips of me hitting, because it seems like some people would actually want to see how it is when people hit with the racket. It's something that's going to be new that I'm going to try add to the videos as well. I'm going to put some videos of me hitting on the court with the racket, and you'll actually see what I mean with regards to when you strike the ball well, you will hit your targets quite well as well. I found the racket to be very maneuverable without actually losing consistency. Before tasting this racket, I would say the most maneuverable racket I have ever played with was the Dunlop Core Revelation 125, which has a feature of being extra headlight, and you definitely did feel it. And it was obviously quite a nice feeling to have so much maneuverability, but at the same time, due to the lack of weight distribution, you do find that you might be prone to hacking and trying to get a little bit extra out of your shot because there's nothing behind the head and everything's in the grip. Whereas with this one, I found it was just as maneuverable without losing consistency, and that's why it was actually really nice to take the ball in short. And it encouraged me, and it keeps encouraging me to try to take the ball in short. I just find myself practicing volleys as well as volley drops and volley drives a lot more often compared to, as I said, some of the heavier rackets that I have used in the past. I think if you're a player that enjoys a racket that gives you a smooth feel, this is also going to be a racket for you. That smooth feel and smooth crunch, obviously when hitting the ball sweetly, is something that I really enjoyed. As I said, taking the ball in short, driving, throwing in lobs during the middle of a rally or in the half court and hitting your target perfectly well. It's just sort of spins up a lot of creativity, and that obviously comes from the fact that it's a very maneuverable racket. If anything, it's sort of starting to remind me of the old school heritage. As I said, this is probably the racket I enjoy playing with the most. I only have one of them, so I don't play with it. It's in my collection, my private collection of awesome rackets that you can have. This actually, I would say, is right up there with this. I think this is probably one of the perfect replacement, I guess, for the Heritage 125, and it's also a little bit more maneuverable, which I tend to enjoy. When it comes to touch and feel, I was actually quite surprised that you could get that type of touch and feel from a teardrop shaped racket. I am a player that does enjoy that touch and feel, and that's why I have in the past drifted towards the traditional shapes, but I could not tell the difference between a traditional shape, or striking the ball at least, or taking the ball in short, between this racket as well as some of your traditional shape rackets. Where this racket shines is taking the ball short, on the drop shot, on the volley drop, on the boast, anything that you want in the front court. I believe taking from the middle or from the back and sending the ball in forward. This is a marvelous racket which enables you to do so and encourages you to do so. If that's something that you've been looking to add into your game, I think I'm not going to say that you can only do it with certain type of rackets. No, you can do it with any type of racket, but there are certain types of rackets and characteristics of rackets which encourage you to do certain things quite well. After hitting with it, and I think you'll see some of the clips that I said I'll leave at the end of the video, I can understand why Joel Makin always has Instagram reels of him taking the ball in short and cutting that ball and leaving the ball so short and glued to the sidewall. I don't know, it's just a feature that comes with a racket, I guess. I'm not too sure why, but as you keep on hitting and striking the ball, you just feel like you want to take the ball in short, and you actually want to try hit the neck or basically leave it that it hugs the sidewall. And after holding this racket, I understand why, as I said, he keeps on doing this on his Instagram, because it's a satisfying shot to see, but it's also a satisfying shot to execute, and I just felt that you could execute that really well with this racket. I think one of the biggest pros about this is the price point. So obviously, compared to some of your more expensive X-Tops, Airshafts, and other rackets out there, I think that this comes at a really good price point, and that's going to be a very big contributing factor to some people, especially with the economic situation that people are in at the moment. Breaking an X-Top, breaking an Airshaft, breaking some other type of rackets, which are maybe, let's say, the head slim body as well, which seems to be quite expensive, would discourage people from actually buying expensive rackets just because of the nature of the game. So this comes in a really good price point, a really competitive price point, and I'm not too sure why I haven't seen more people playing with this in South Africa. Maybe obviously due to the fact that it's rare to get, more people aren't aware of the fact that you can get it or it is available. I do understand that most rackets within South Africa will probably be Harrows and Technifibers. At least that's what I saw with regards to the tournament that I was playing in July. I think if it wasn't Technifiber, the most popular racket afterwards was Harrow. So it seems like they are doing well, and I do understand obviously why Harrow also have very unique feeling rackets. But this, I think, if it could get into the hands of a lot more other players, I think it will actually be right up there. So it sounds like I don't have a lot of negative to say about this racket, but I will get there. But I was remarkably impressed with how this racket felt in my hand. So with respect to the cons, as I said, we are shrinking head size, so it's a 480 square centimeter head size, which can and does not necessarily always mean the fact that you won't get as much power, but it's not the most powerful racket out there. For some reason, I do understand people really look towards getting the most powerful racket out there, and I do understand that myself as well, because I think when I came back into squash as well, that is one of the things I try to focus on. How can I get more power out of my shots? How can I crack the ball a little bit harder? How can I find that, kill shot that I've been looking for? But at the same time, though, it's not to say that you can't get that out of this racket, no. I just find that if I have to just stand still and try hit the ball as hard as possible, yes, I'll get that out of a Carboflex. I'll probably have a harder shot out of Carboflex, or maybe your Revelation 135 or your heavier racket. So definitely the lighter the racket, you can find that you will lack power just because of the lack of momentum. But if you do have a good technique, and also you coupling your striking with good movement, getting your weight transfer through the ball, moving your feet, then you shouldn't have a problem. And I didn't have a problem actually generating power. But as I said, from a standpoint, if I just have to pick up a racket, stand without using my weight of transfer, without actually doing everything that I can to strike the ball well, and just simply swing at it, I would feel that yes, you get a lot more power out of a Carboflex or a Technifiber, but it does not mean that this racket does not deliver on that. And there are also ways to counter that. You can lower the tension. I think Joel Makin, in some videos when he first brought out the racket, said that he might string as low as 23 or 22 pounds. So that's actually really, really low, and he also cracks the ball. But at the same time, he moves quite well, and he knows how to put his weight and transfer his weight into his shots. So I'm sure he's not struggling for power. And as I said, it's not a dud of a racket. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get power. But if you are looking for something to give you out and out power, this is probably not the racket for you. One of the cons, I'll say, it's not really a popular racket. I haven't seen many of these out there. I only know one person which has this, and obviously I think that I am going to migrate to this racket, so that's obviously a spoiler, but I am going to migrate towards this racket, even though the slashes are coming in. I've just really enjoyed this racket, and I think it's going to deliver what it is that I need at this moment in time. I've been trying to work obviously a lot of my footwork, movement, and physicality in the game, and I felt that this enables those aspects of my game which I'm working on at the moment to shine. It's not a very popular racket, which means obviously the fact that not too many people have it, so that can be a con in the sense that if you do feel that it's not the racket for you, you cannot really find a lot of buyers for it, people that might want to take it off your hands while you sort of sell it to get an upgrade on your next racket. And also, I'm not too sure about the durability of Karakal's, although I have done some research and it doesn't seem that there's anything or any sort of complaints with regards to durability. If you have any sort of input with respect to that, then please leave a comment below and let us know about your experience with regards to durability of Karakal rackets. But as I said, because there are not so many Karakal rackets out there within South Africa itself, I know in the racquetball or squash 57 world, Karakal obviously shines, but with regards to squash, there are not so many of them. So I haven't been able to confirm or encounter any people that have said they've had problems with their durability. But with a very thin beam, and I think the fact that people would maybe try to overhit with a racket like this since it's so light, I can possibly see the potential of the fact that the racket would break, although I'm not saying that it is fragile by any means. I have hit it a few times against the wall and it seems fine. I don't even see any dents or marks in it. So it's just a suspicion that I do have, and it's actually just because it has not been confirmed per se, but durability might be something of concern. But I must emphasize that this is obviously just suspicion, it's not confirmed. But from what I have tested, it seems good, it seems durable, but the thin beam, I won't say worries me. It obviously adds to the characteristics and a lot of the positives that I do like about the racket, but the thin beam might worry some people. So I have put that down as a con or a place of concern for some players. So who's this racket for? So I think if you're fast and physical and trying to add that component to your game, sort of bring in a couple of variations to your game, trying to take the ball in short, step up on the tee, you need something that is quite maneuverable to sort of get you. Your body will get you obviously into deep corners, but you might not have the ability to generate a proper swing. But because you're playing a physical type of game and you're obviously trying to throw in a lot of options, obviously a lot of lobs, a lot of taking ball in short, holds, and then obviously changing direction afterwards to make the game really physical, then this is the racket for you. I think if you've got your footwork on point, if you've got your swing technique down, then definitely it's something that you will enjoy. It is a really versatile racket. I found my way swinging it many different ways. I can hold it right at the top if I want to. I can hold it right in the bottom or in the middle. So that's one of the ways I do test rackets sometimes, to say, well, what happens if I swing at the top? Okay, can I swing at the top and actually still execute my shots? Can I hold it in the middle? Can I hold it at the bottom? And will I still be able to execute some certain types of shots? I do find with some sort of heavy rackets, I do find to hold it right at the bottom sort of to get my swing, I won't say delayed per se, but obviously with the fact that there's a lot of weight in their head, you want to delay that swing to make sure it's really the swing that you want, or the way that you really want to hit the ball before you actually send it off, which obviously leads to some sort of consistency. So as I said, if you're not worried about that and you have got your swing technique down, the fact that you're also good with your footwork and your movement, then you're going to really enjoy this racket, I feel. It's for people which maybe would model their game, maybe let's say after like a Joel Makin or Nick Matthew, which funny enough, obviously this is a Joel Makin racket, but Nick Matthew also had a 120 gram racket. But if you're trying to model your game after those type of players, then this will probably be a racket for you. If you do not have those, if you're struggling with your swing technique and you haven't got it sort of honed in, then maybe not. I think if you're working on your swing technique and trying to obviously, or maybe you're a beginner, then definitely opt towards the heavier racket so that you can get a good technique. Once you get a good technique, you're striking the ball well and your preparation is good, then you can maybe migrate to a lighter racket. But obviously that is a fundamental that you have to master first before you move on to a racket like this. I think it's also suited for, as I said, similar to Joel Makin as well as Nick Matthew. If you're trying to inject pace into your game, this is also quite racket for you because it allows you to, as I said, the maneuverability allows you to take in volleys a lot faster, which adds pace into the game, which actually brings me to an important point. Pace and power are not exactly the same thing. So power is obviously how hard you hit the ball. And yes, you can obviously generate pace, which I'm going to speak about by hitting the ball hard, but it's not necessarily the most effective way. So by you injecting pace in the game, you are reducing the amount of time that your opponent has to react. So obviously one of the ways of doing that is volleying, a bit of holding to sort of make sure that they stand still and then they don't have the momentum obviously moving to the next shot. That's how you add pace into the game, limiting the amount of time the person has to react, taking the ball in a bit earlier, taking the ball in short, obviously playing with your volleys, cutting off before it gets to the back, not allowing your person or your opponent to get to the tee as effectively and pushing them different places. So that's actually how it is that you increase pace, and obviously footwork, getting your feet working faster. That's how you increase pace. With respect to hitting the ball and how hard you hit the ball, it's power. Adding power to your game does not necessarily mean that you inject pace. Yes, you'll hit the ball faster, but the thing is, if you're not hitting your lines, and if you hit the ball hard and it's bouncing off the back wall, and it gives your opponent more time because they don't have to run as far into the deep corners, then you're not actually injecting pace into the game. You actually make it easier for your opponent to actually wait for the ball to come off the back wall and then play their shot. They don't have to run as fast. So another way of doing it is hitting your targets deep in the corner, leaving your ball short or leaving your ball long. That's how you inject pace in the game. So I think if you're trying to inject pace in your game, this is actually a racket that you would probably enjoy using to do that. As I said, it's quite versatile, it's quite maneuverable. You can hold it in different configurations, different points, very up high if you want to choke your racket. So obviously that's what I mean, up high here. If you want to hold it obviously in the middle, and if you want to hold it at the bottom, I feel that you can be comfortable and still execute your shots quite well. Where, as I said, some rackets, it doesn't feel comfortable holding it up here, or it doesn't feel comfortable holding it up here. At least that's what I've experienced. So I think if you are a beginner, probably, I won't say stay away from the racket. I think it's more suited towards people which are in the intermediate stage and obviously trying to add something to their game, or obviously our advanced players who are looking to add some of these things, as I mentioned, to their game. But I think if you are a beginner, stick to the heavier rackets, maybe a heavy racket or just a heavy racket until your swing and your footwork as well as your movement have caught up. Then maybe you can look towards opting towards a racket like this. But it is a competitive alternative to some of your more pricier as well as well-renowned teardrop shape rackets. I think that you can't do wrong with a racket like this if you're at an intermediate stage or advanced stage. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that this is going to be a racket I'm going to play with going forward for a while. Maybe that changes with the Technifiber / Rise, and maybe I'm going to be happy with that. But I will be moving from the Technifiber Airshaft NS to the Karakal Raw Pro 2.0, and I'm quite excited for that. Being able to test it out for quite a while, and I think it is a good choice up until obviously I can review a slash. Maybe the slash maybe changes my point of view, although it's going to be pretty hard because of the fact that I have enjoyed this racket so much. It will be interesting to see what else the slash gives me, which is going to be a good review, especially since I won't say so sold, but since I'm enjoying this racket so much, I think it will actually give me a better standpoint to review the slash 120. It's also 120 grams, obviously smaller head size at 460. And it has got a smaller, thinner beam, so it might come in and play very similar to this one, probably less forgiving, but maybe the control is obviously more honed in. So that's going to be something that we have to wait and see how I feel about both rackets. But with regards to teardrop shapes, as I said, my favorite racket has been the Technifiber Heritage 125, the yellow and black one that Mohammed Al-Shabag used to play with. But I haven't felt and played with a teardrop racket which felt similar to that ever since. And this one's right up there, I think, even better than that racket. And yeah, that's about it for this week. Pretty stoked to have this racket in my hand. It's not mine at the moment, but I'm definitely looking towards getting these in the future. Stay tuned for the review of the Technifiber / 120. Hopefully I can do a good job, especially now that I've enjoyed this one. I think it's going to be a very good comparison between the two rackets, since I seem to have left the school of thought that I just need power obviously in my game. Definitely get more control, a little bit of both, good balance for both of those things, and to add to my game. It's a continuum, it's a ever expanding experience, and I'm just happy to be able to be happy and healthy playing the game that I love. And I hope you guys also are out there enjoying the off season for some of you have just started, and I hope something like this or a review like this has helped. Maybe it's something to consider. If you can get your hands on a racket like this, then definitely do it, try it out, ask a friend. If they've got it in a shop that lets you demo or touch and play with the rackets, then definitely give it a sort of a tryout, and let me know what you think about it. If you do have one of these, let me know in the comment section. If you have tried it out, let me know what you think about it. If you think I'm talking crap, tell me I'm talking crap. But at the end of the day, it's obviously preferences. We all have our different preferences. I don't think that the racket or my preference will be exactly the same for everyone. But yeah, it's a racket that I've thoroughly enjoyed. It actually brings me so much joy knowing and actually playing around with this racket over the last few days. But yeah, without further ado, and until next time, cheers, bye.
So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always willing to climb. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a stand, and try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you down, they wanna rise up while you drown, they wanna fill you with doubt, they're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding what I'm losing, and when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. You better pray that I don't see your face at every place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I go to fight and to die, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I will get back up, 'cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down, they wanna rise up while you drown, they wanna fill your head with doubt, they're silently scared that you'll figure it out.